The Kansas City Royals just made the first big move of the 2024 trade deadline, acquiring relief pitcher Hunter Harvey from the rebuilding Washington Nationals. The Nationals went into this year knowing that there were a couple key pieces away from contending, with James Wood on the way up and another bunch of top prospects on the way as well, with Dylan Cruz participating in the Futures game today. And they were ready to go ahead and unload some pieces that had some immediate value but weren't in their long-term plans, with Hunter Harvey, one of their high-leverage bullpen arms, being one of those pieces. The Royals, on the outside looking in of a very tight American League wildcard race, one game out of that third wildcard spot as of July 13th, wanted to booster that bullpen and go for a postseason push in a American League that has some very interesting dynamics heading into the postseason in a couple months. With it wide open, the Royals wanted to go all in, and Harvey will be a great late inning guy akin to what they got out of Aroldis Chapman at the beginning of 2023 to potentially help them push towards a World Series ring in 2024. In exchange for Harvey's services, the Nationals acquired a top prospect in the Royal system as well as a draft pick in the MLB Draft coming up tomorrow or Sunday with the time this video releases, which is unprecedented as very few draft picks are able to be traded in MLB, and with the draft only a day away, this completely shapes how both teams are going to approach their bonus pools. In this video, we'll dive into this trade that just broke down on an already eventful day and see exactly how both teams made out and project in the future how this trade might work out for both teams. Before we begin, it would obviously mean a lot if you can subscribe to the channel. You get more content like this about recent trades, other MLB things, and also get great content from not only me, but other awesome baseball YouTubers out there as well. Without further ado, let's dive into the Hunter Harvey trade that just happened an hour or so ago at the time of recording. Hunter Harvey was the first-round pick by the Baltimore Orioles in the 2013 MLB Draft and played 3 seasons there before being put on waivers, first being claimed by the Giants and then subsequently by the Nationals just a couple months later before starting the 2022 season in Washington and quickly established himself as a reliable bullpen piece for the Nationals. Harvey has a solid 4-pitch mix with a fastball that averages about 98 but has hit over 100 miles an hour, a nice split-finger fastball as well that hovers around 90, a curveball in the low 80s, and a slider that sits about 85, right about league average. He's done a good job of mixing those pitches, and with one of the fastest fastballs in Major League Baseball, he provides a lot of value for a team coming out of the bullpen. Although his stats in 2024 don't really match his productivity in the past, a 4.20 ERA across 43 games, 45 innings pitched, but his peripherals do look a lot better with a 3.17 fielding independent pitching, which removes fielding and basically looks at the 3 true outcomes for a pitcher's success, and it shows that he's actually done a pretty decent job and has just gotten a little unlucky this year on the baseball field. He's also struck out 10 batters per 9 innings in 2024, which is a solid feat, and you definitely want to have a strikeout-heavy reliever in today's day and age. And that's exactly what Harvey is, someone who can strike out a lot of guys. He's not going to be a high-octane, high strikeout guy, but he does strike out more than average, and that helps with his peripherals to show that there is some adjustments the Royals can make to potentially make him an even better reliever for them. Used mostly as a setup man during his time in Washington under Davey Martinez, I see him occupying a similar role as a high-leverage reliever, potentially spelling some of the appearances that Chris Stratton or John Schreiber could have used. And that's a lot of value for Kansas City. Adding some depth in their bullpen behind MacArthur, Stratton, and Schreiber will be good value for them, and also give them more options as they head into October. They've thankfully stayed pretty healthy on the pitcher end, while Jordan Lyles is out with a temporary inactive personal reason. They only have 3 players injured beyond that, all on the 60-day IL, and Kyle Wright, Dan Altavilla, and Josh Taylor, with only Altavilla being injured during the season itself. So they've maintained relatively healthy. So if injuries do hit, they're now giving themselves the depth to be okay and manage as they come towards October. Heading back to the Nationals is third baseman Cayden Wallace, the Royals' second-round pick in the 2024 MLB Draft, and someone that a lot of people thought would be manning that left side of the infield with Bobby Witt Jr. for years to come. The Royals don't have a ton of infield depth in their minor league system, so Wallace was kind of seen as their one shot to get someone really good next to Witt Jr. from inside their organization. He started his college career at Arkansas, where he made an immediate impact, tying the freshman home run record at 14 for the Razorbacks, and led them to the College World Series the next year as a sophomore, before being taken by the Royals as a draft-eligible sophomore in the second round of that 2022 MLB Draft for a $1.7 million signing bonus, and quickly got up to AA at the end of his first full season in 2023. With above-average arm strength and decent range at third base, he profiles to stick there long-term and has the ability to be an above-average defender at the hot corner for years to come, which is where most of his value lies. He doesn't have the best hit tool. He's not going to be the guy who hits for a super high batting average, but he has some decent power, at least into the gaps. He'll be a guy who can hit for a decent amount of doubles, but isn't going to be a huge home run hitter, and also has decent speed. He might steal a couple bags, especially with these new rules being implemented. So he definitely has some value in all aspects of his game, but his defense is really what stands out and sets him apart as a solid player and a decent prospect going forward. Defense is always valuable, and if you can't hit super well in the major leagues, your defense can carry you. Granted, third base is not as valuable as a position as catcher or shortstop, for instance, but being a good defensive third baseman has a ton of value and will be one of the reasons why he does end up making the major leagues should he end up getting there, which at this point, it seems like he most likely will, probably sometime in 2025. When you talk to scouts, they often talk about how he has a very calm demeanor in the box, and he has a very simple, compact swing that allows him to generate a lot of contact when he's not missing breaking balls, which is right now the biggest portion of his offensive game that is lacking. On offense, his biggest weakness is picking up breaking balls, and he often swings and misses at strike threes in breaking balls in the dirt because of his just inability to pick up spin and identify a breaking ball, which is a glaring weakness and is part of the reason why he hasn't shot up through the minor league ranks quicker. He stayed this entire season at AA besides a quick rehab assignment in rookie ball. But if he's able to go ahead and identify spin a little bit better and be able to identify breaking pitches just a tad better, he will be a serviceable hitter in major leagues, and couple that with above average defense and you have yourself a solid player going forward. The other aspect of this deal was the 39th overall pick in the 2024 MLB Draft happening tomorrow, giving the Nationals an almost $2.4 million boost to their signing bonus pool, which gives them a lot more flexibility to sign better players and get another option to select another quality player high up in the MLB Draft. This is a very interesting deal, and the first one that really has a couple of moving parts that are going to pay off immediately for these teams. Let's start with the Kansas City Royals, who I'm going to give a B for. Right now, I don't think they're necessarily ready to go and compete for an American League crown, so this seems a little bit short-sighted, especially trading away someone who I think has a lot of ability to be a solid bottom-of-the-lineup player for you for many years to come, be a great defensive tandem with Bobby Witt Jr. I just don't see this benefiting them a ton unless they were planning to go ahead and trade for a third baseman now, or they are planning on drafting a third baseman in this MLB draft where they expect to shoot through the minor leagues, which based on this draft crop doesn't seem like there's a ton of value at the third base position that are able to go and be quick risers. I never like to criticize teams that try and go all in, and although this wasn't a true all-in deal and it's for a small piece that can help them, it is something that I don't think is going to push them over the edge and doesn't give them a huge benefit, but having relievers is always valuable. You can never have enough pitching, and at least the Royals are saying, hey, we're willing to give this season a go, and we'll see exactly how this ends up for us in the future, and hopefully this will be at least experience for our team getting to the playoffs and playing under the lights of October. What is really curious to me is they're trading away the 39th overall pick, part of competitive balance round A, one of the few picks that can be traded in the MLB draft just one day before the MLB draft is set to take place. What this tells me is that the Royals either weren't happy with the money that they had and felt that they could sign their players for less, or weren't happy with the demands players were offering, or that the Nationals really wanted to go and sign another player. They needed that extra player boost, that extra money boost, so they're happy to go ahead and take a player that isn't willing to sign for a ton of money at one of these higher draft picks and go ahead and allocate some of that $2.4 million to someone else. For those who aren't familiar with how this process works, when a team picks a player, there's not a set amount of money that they get, but rather they can go and mix and match from the first 10 rounds the amount of money that they want to spread out across those 10 players. So your first round pick, you could take at a discount. If this value of the pick is worth $7 million, you can sign them for $5 million, and then in the second round, if you pick a guy who wants $3 million and the slot value is 1, you can use that money to balance out. So it's a little bit suspect a day before the draft, but that just tells me that some of these values haven't been worked out yet. It's a lot of teams know exactly where they're going to end up going, and picks have kind of been put into place already, but there are always surprises. So it's just an interesting little wrinkle in what is one of my favorite days of the year, the MLB draft. And then for the Nationals, I'll give this an A-. I think it's a solid deal. Hunter Harvey is not part of your long-term plans. It does not make a ton of sense to go ahead and give him a extension because you'll probably be asking for more money than you're willing to give to a reliever. And at this point, you know you're not competing in 2024 or 2025 for that matter, so might as well capitalize on the value while it's highest and offload someone who isn't going to provide you value during your competitive window, but can if you trade them for someone who can. Cayden Wallace is someone who is an interesting name. He's not going to be a superstar top of the lineup guy, but if he does hit 7th, 8th, and provide some decent value out of the bottom of the lineup and some good defense as well, that's something I would take every day of the week, especially for a reliever. Getting the extra draft pick in the draft tomorrow is a huge boost for the Nationals that provides them a ton of more flexibility in terms of their salary pool. So now they're able to go ahead and sign more players, be more creative with that money, and ensure that they get the players that they want. I think that's a huge boost for a team that's looking to potentially go ahead and draft a ton of college players who might be wanting to come back, or potentially try and drag down one of the high school players who are looking to go ahead and get a big payday. The Nationals are picking 10th, which is prime range for someone like Connor Griffin, who is a high schooler who has a lot of interest from a lot of teams. But if you get him or Bryce Rainier, maybe $6 million won't cut it for a high schooler. Maybe they want more. So if you can go ahead and use some of that money to go ahead and sign one of these top high school guys, you have the money to do that now. Of course, $6 million for a high schooler, I think any of us would have taken that when we graduated high school. But in current day MLB, for a top prospect, it might not be enough. The Nationals have put themselves in the position to make sure they can sign those guys if they do fall to 10, and that's exactly the position you want to be in. I don't grade it higher because I think Cayden Wallace does have a little bit of a limited ceiling, and we won't really know the outcome of this draft until tomorrow, so this grade could definitely change based on how they use that money. And granted, the draft is a 3-day process, so we'll see exactly how it works out. But the Nationals have done some interesting things, and I'm really curious to see how things end up for them. Thank you very much for getting to the end of the video. Let's hope this trade works out for both teams. I think that's what most people want, unless you aren't a fan of the Royals or Nationals, is to have trades work out for both sides so we can get Hunter Harvey pitching late in October and making Royals fans happy, and maybe Cayden Wallace going and being a future star for the Nationals for a true win-win trade. We all know that doesn't work, so let me know in the comments who you think won this deal. And hopefully you're excited for the draft tomorrow as well. Should be on ESPN and MLB Network if you're interested, and I encourage you, go look at baseball's future stars. It's one of the most interesting and dynamic drafts there are, and hopefully I can see you in the next video.